Here are my thoughts on the 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I briefly mentioned the Nightmare on Elm Street 2010 remake on the Creatures of the Night podcast I did with my friend and buddy Wolfman Sam, but here's a full in-depth on the remake. Before I dive into my thoughts, here's a little story. This movie came out when I was a junior in high school. Around that time I was deep in my horror phase. Halloween 2009, I had just seen the original Nightmare on Elm Street with my dad and my friends, and we loved it so much. Fast forward a year and a few months later, a remake came out. I didn't see it in the movie theaters when it came out. I said to myself, nah, no thanks. I'm skipping this one. Around this time, I was finally watching classic horror movies to catch up on marathoning horror franchises like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and my dad was showing me other like miscellaneous classic horror movies. After seeing the classics, I checked out the remakes for curiosity on whether or not I would like them or not. Sometimes it was hit or miss, mostly misses than hits. Only exceptions were The Thing, The Fly, and The Blob were good remakes. Before I knew those were remakes to 1950s sci-fi movies. In college, when I met Jeremy and we became friends, he told me it was not that bad, but he admitted it was not great. My late great friend Chris Mato didn't like it, and I remember hearing from other random people in my horror club at my old college being mixed about the remake. In 2017 or 2018, I did a podcast as a cameo recording with Christian, Jeremy, and my late great friend Chris Main on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. In that video, I gave my thoughts on why I did not see the remake. Almost 2 years ago, I did a cameo recording for Christian's YouTube channel on the remake to A Nightmare on Elm Street in one of the videos. I didn't watch this movie until 2019 by the end of the decade. Again, I felt mixed about it. One time, Chris Main and I had a conversation about the remake. I told him I didn't hate or love it, I felt mixed about it. Chris understood and respected on me being mixed about the remake. It was directed by Samuel Bay, who prior to this mostly directed commercials and music videos. He directed the Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit music video. It was produced by Michael Bay. Well, that says it all. Michael Bay is the reason why Samuel Bayer got the job. Michael Bay told him this will open the door to bring him to making movies and more opportunities instead of just making music videos. Since then, he has not directed a movie since this movie. From watching this movie, you can tell he had no passion for this movie or Freddy Krueger. It was made by the same company, Platinum Dunes, that did the 2000 remakes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the prequel, the Friday the 13th 2009 remake, and the Hitcher remake. I didn't hate or love this movie. It was a movie that had potential but was misleading. I didn't hate it as much as I did with the Friday remake, Black Christmas remake, and just like Rob Zombie's Halloween remake, I was also in the mix on that movie. Making Freddy Innocent could have worked, an interesting good change-up, but of course they fooled us. If they had went that route, that could have been a good change-up in a horror remake. In the original, Freddy Krueger was guilty of his crimes and got what he deserved, but in this one, they went the innocent route. Then the townspeople realized they made a mistake in killing Freddy Krueger. Freddy was a child molester in this movie. In the original, Freddy was a child murderer. Freddy Krueger ended up being a piece of shit. In the original Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven wanted to have Freddy Krueger written as a child molester. The reason why that was changed is because of real-life events that were going on at the time of the McMartin trials. There was this daycare in Manhattan Beach, Los Angeles, where these teachers were accused of abusing hundreds of children. Wes Craven and the studio were afraid of the audience would make that connection, thinking they were inspired by that case. Jackie Earle Haley was not a terrible Freddy Krueger. He was under a lot of pressure trying to make Freddy his own. The year before this movie, he was big as Rorschach in the Watchmen movie, but in this movie, he struck out. His performance as Freddy is not memorable like Robert Englund is. He does try to give it his all, and he was a good choice at the time to play Freddy Krueger at the time. He just didn't do what we had hoped for him. In general, he is a good actor. If he had a better script direction, he maybe could have pulled it off as Freddy Krueger. His makeup as Freddy Krueger looked like a fish. They go back to making Freddy Krueger darker again. He's not goofy, campy, cartoony, but Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy did have his moments of being humorous sometimes in the movie. The movie also did go back to its darker roots like the first movie. No Freddy Krueger killing people in a video game, a comic book, or bench pressing, not being Looney Tunes or referencing movie quotes like The Wizard of Oz. In the podcast, I mentioned that Robert Englund did have a little humor as Freddy in the first movie, but it was not over the top like in the later sequels. It was dark humor to scare his victims. Rooney Mara's Nancy sucked. She had no charisma, no personality, no arc, and you tell she did not want to be there, and she put no effort into this movie. Watching her performance as Nancy makes me wish I was watching Heather Langenkamp in the original Nightmare on Elm Street movie, or heck, I wish I was watching a continued storyline of a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. She was only making this movie for a paycheck and just to jumpstart her career. Since then, she's had a successful career as an actress. This movie came out the same year as The Social Network, but by a few months apart. I liked her in movies like Lion and A Ghost Story. I've never seen the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movie. She was so bland and forgetful in this movie as Nancy. She's admitted in interviews she did not want to do this movie in the first place. She was surprised when she got the part after a bad audition. She almost quit acting because of this movie. Rooney Mara did not get along with director Samuel Bayer when she made this movie. Kyle Gunner plays Nancy's boyfriend. He's a good actor, but also bland and forgetful as Nancy's boyfriend. The part when he has a dream and sees and thinks Freddy was innocent had me going there for a second, making me believe that Freddy was innocent. But like I said before, the writers threw a curveball at us. Clancy Brown plays the father, Kyle Gunner's character, one of the people who killed Freddy Krueger. Good actor Clancy Brown, but I forget that he's in the movie sometimes, but he's not in the movie that much. I'm not sure what his screen time was in this movie. Kyle Gunner's been in a lot of good things. He played Flash on Smallville. He's also been in some better horror movies like Smile and Scream 5. I was rewatching American Sniper, and I did not recognize that he was in that movie. Me and Jeremy watched Cold Case Files. He was on an episode of that TV show. Really good episode that he was on. Nancy's mom, also forgetful despite Connie Britton, is also a good actress. She was on American Horror Story 1 year later. She brings no emotion to this character. An okay opening scene at the diner when Dean is asleep, then he gets killed by Freddy Krueger. The character Chris, played by Katie Cassidy, we thought she was going to be the main character, but of course, she dies early in the movie like Tina. She tries to figure out how did she know Dean when she was little, despite remembering meeting him when they started junior high school together. Her mom is not a hooker, not too neglectful like the original mother, but still a little absent in Chris's life. Her mom was going to London for a business trip. Chris lasted longer than Tina did. Her boyfriend Dean was a jerk. Rob was a jerk, at least he was convincing, a little bit sympathetic, because he did not murder Tina. Recreating classic scenes from the original Nightmare on Elm Street is not done well or organic. Chris's death scene is not scary or effective like in the original one with Tina's death. Freddy Through the Wall was CGI, was an example of CGI done right, but I still love the original practical effect of Freddy going through the wall haunting Nancy. Nancy in the tub, Freddy gloves pops up. Not iconic or scary as the original. Nancy seeing Chris's ghost in the hallway. Just dumb and an insult to the original. The movie relies too much on cheap jump scares. It wasn't done well as it could have been. Of course, the movie ends on a BS cliffhanger ending setting up a sequel we never got, and we don't care about. Especially after 10 plus years since this movie came out, we still don't care or want a sequel to this movie. This is the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie to date at this point in time. Who knows what they will do with the series? Maybe just make a follow-up sequel to the first movie, and ignore the other sequels like they did with the Halloween series. Sometimes I ask myself, is this franchise dead just like the Friday the 13th franchise? I wish they could bring back Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp for another Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but I'm not holding my breath on that, especially how Robert Englund has admitted that he's retired as Freddy Krueger. As my friend Christian said, the recent Stranger Things Season 4 felt like a much better spiritual remake to the original Nightmare on Elm Street than this movie was. It follows out a Nightmare on Elm Street vibes to it and some elements to it. Haven't watched this movie for this small brief review. I'm probably never going to rewatch this movie ever again. It wasn't one of the worst horror remakes I've ever seen. At the same time, this movie's not even close to being good. It failed to capture the spirit of the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and it had potential, but it did not lead up to my expectations. The original is still a better movie. This one is bland and very forgetful. If I want to watch a Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm going back to the first movie. That wraps up my Nightmare on Elm Street videos. Tomorrow we're heading to a motel.